Vice President of Gun Violence Prevention Policy at the Center for American Progress, and John Malcolm, Vice President of the Institute for Constitutional Government at the Heritage Foundation. Chelsea, we're just trying to kind of patch together the web on the business side of all the players, big and small. You're in D.C. How much power, just not the NRA, the gun industry and the National Shooting Sports Foundation, how much power do they have?
Yeah, thanks for having me. So the gun industry has a tremendous amount of power. As you mentioned, you ran through the numbers. It is an enormous industry that pumps out an incredible number of guns every year. And as a result of the size of the industry and its connection to a very powerful lobbying arm led by the National Rifle Association, this industry has had tremendous influence in the last few decades over policymaking in Congress. And I want to be clear when I talk about the NRA purports to speak for American gun owners. The fact is the NRA speaks for the gun industry. And what we know is that when you talk to gun owners, they are not on board with the NRA's extreme political agenda. But who is on board with that agenda is the gun industry because it serves to sell more guns.
Well, there is, John, a trade group for the gun makers. That is the National Shooting Sports Foundation, the NSSF, which sort of sadly is based actually in Newtown, Connecticut, where, of course, the Sandy Hook tragedy occurred. That aside, let's not talk about the political side of this. I want to talk about the business side of this. Does the industry, maybe in order to protect itself, need to step up here? And if politicians are going to fight, we're going to argue about the Constitution and the Second Amendment and literal readings and et cetera, does the business community have an obligation here?
Well, I'm not sure what that means. I mean, this is an industry. It's a lawful industry. I mean, these earlier descriptions make it sound as if it's a drug cartel. I mean, they are producing a legitimate product that's enjoyed by millions of Americans for hunting or target practice or for just legitimate, genuine self-defense. They are hurt badly in terms of their image when one of these horrific massacres take place. They're already a fairly highly regulated industry, and the reason that they are so powerful is really because there are an awful lot of law-abiding citizens who want to have access to this lawful product. So yes, they're powerful, but look, there are a lot of powerful special interest groups in this country, and there are a lot of law-abiding citizens who take advantage of these legitimate products.
I get that point, John. I understand what you're saying, but if the industry felt like Congress was really going to do something, they might be forced to act. I assume the industry is not doing something because they know that Congress may not do something. I get your point. It's legal. There's no reason for them to do something. But if you are afraid of the government, I assume you would want to get out in front of it. Do you think that this industry has any fear of Congress at all?
Yeah, no, look, I think that if they really think that something bad is going to happen, they might decide to press something that they otherwise wouldn't like in order to get out in front of the issue. But, nothing gives gun owners and in this industry a bad name worse than a massacre like this. And if there were easy solutions, my guess is that regardless of the special interests on both sides of the political aisle that are involved, they would have been implemented quite some time ago.
Chelsea, it's a bad example. You forgive me but you look at seatbelts, okay? The car industry didn't want to have seatbelts. It's annoying, right? You remember those automatic seatbelts? People didn't want to wear them, but they were forced by law to wear them. Now, it's just secondhand. We just do it. Nobody even thinks about it. We don't assume that 30 years ago it was kind of an odd concept. Do you see any change that the gun industry is going to adapt and evolve to these types of shootings, or do you think they're just going to keep their head down, go through their trade groups and let it ride?
I mean, look, I think that if the industry can skate through this, most recent horrible mass shooting without having to accept any kind of new regulation, they're going to do so. I mean, one of the things I want to point out is while the gun manufacturers are a big part of the industry, another part are the businesses that sell guns, the licensed gun dealers. And I think that is a group that has a huge responsibility and, frankly, a huge opportunity to step up and voluntarily do the right thing, to take voluntary steps to adopt best practices that help prevent diversion of firearms.
Where the actual purchases or the rubber meets the road, that John Doe walks into a shop and says, I'll take that AR-15.
But a lot of guns are not
Exactly.
sold through traditional retailers, correct?
Well, that's true, too, and that gets to one of the big gaps in our laws, which is we have, under federal law, private sales that don't need to go through a gun dealer or go through a background check. But one of the other things, to go back to the gun stores for a moment, is that we have a huge problem in this country right now of gun theft, and particularly burglaries and robberies of gun stores. ATF has sounded the alarm over the past 18 months that thefts at gun stores are up dramatically. And part of the problem is ATF, under current law, does not have any authority to mandate that gun dealers implement any specific security measures. So you have stores that get hit repeatedly by people just breaking the glass on the front door, and then they do nothing to prevent that from happening again.
Yeah, and that's an important point, John. I mean, the majority of gun crime is committed with handguns with the serial number shaved off that are purchased. I think it's 90-some% of gun crime is committed by guns that were not purchased legally. The problem is the mass killings tend to be the one where we get the guns that do it. So, guys, we'll have you back. It was a civil debate. It was a good discussion. Chelsea and John, we both appreciate it.